What's up, guys? D-Rock 1992 here. For my next actor in my About Actors series, I'm going to talk about an actor who has definitely gotten a second chance in Hollywood. Just one of those guys who's a great comeback story. And the guy I'm going to talk about, the one that's most recognizable to everybody, to most people at least, is Robert Downey Jr. I'm going to talk about him. I will be honest, first of all, before I get into this, I have not seen a ton of his earlier movies from the 80s and the 90s and all of that stuff kind of thing, but I have seen a lot of his newer films, like Iron Man, Sherlock Holmes, a lot of stuff that he is really famous for now. I'll get more into Iron Man and Sherlock Holmes afterwards, but I mean, there's no question. Robert Downey Jr. is an immensely talented actor. The guy just, I mean, it couldn't happen to a better actor that he came back from his alcohol and drug addiction in the late 90s and jail time in the late 90s and early 2000s, and just came back to really produce a good, consistent, great second Hollywood career, basically. I mean, it's not very often that a guy has two Hollywood careers, essentially, but a great second chance given to Robert Downey Jr. I'm ranting about it now. I'm going to get into his movie career first off. In 1970, at the age of, let's see here, I think he was about, let's see, 5 years old. He was about 5 years old when he did his first movie. And it was a movie called Pound. Sure, none of you have ever heard of the movie. It was directed and written by his father, Robert Downey Sr. And he plays, well, if you can believe it, he plays a puppy in this movie. And if you can believe it, it's a live-action movie. Looks like a live-action movie to me. But that was his debut in Pound. Over the next decade or so, next decade and a half, around then, not very many roles as a child, you know, just kind of establishing himself a little bit. I think most of the stuff he was in was thanks to his father, Robert Downey Sr., and, you know, it was just that, pretty much. But then he kind of started to make a name for himself in Hollywood, and it really started in the mid-'80s. This is a movie I just watched. It came out in 1985, Weird Science, which is a pretty goofy movie, but a good movie nonetheless. He doesn't really... He has a supporting role in the film. He doesn't really establish his chops quite yet. We don't really see what he's all about. But in the next movie I'm going to talk about, we kind of see the Robert Downey Jr. funniness, you know, which makes him great. Back to School was a movie I watched a while back. Rodney Dangerfield, the late great Rodney Dangerfield, is in this movie, and his sons, he plays Rodney Dangerfield's character's son's friend. This movie is basically about a big businessman who wants to impress his son. He wants to kind of rekindle his relationship with his son so much, he goes to college with him. Yeah, he goes to college with him, basically. And Robert Downey Jr. plays the friend of that son, and he's an out there character for sure, but you kind of start seeing what makes Robert Downey Jr. very good in this movie. And, well, starting with Weird Science, kind of, he's considered a member of the Brat Pack of the 1980s. Brat Pack, some of the names of the Brat Pack guys, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen's brother, Andrew McCarthy, Molly Ringwald, a lot of great 80s actors. And they were known as the Brat Pack because they starred in a lot of teen-oriented coming-of-age films in the 80s. And, Robert Downey Jr. was a part of that, definitely. 1987, he comes out with The Pickup Artist. It's a movie with him and Molly Ringwald. Let's see. He comes out, that's a movie that he was a member, another member of the Brat Pack. Less Than Zero, also in 1987. And he has a more prominent role in this one. He has probably a supporting role. This one I'm curious about seeing because it's about drug use. Drug use and how it can affect you, emotionally, life, how it can impact life itself, basically. It is a drama, obviously, but it is a movie that I'd want to see from him for sure. 1988, he comes out with Johnny Be Good, movie with a guy who he starred with in Weird Science, Anthony Michael Hall, and a supporting role in it, definitely. But I'm just mentioning a lot of his earlier films, even though I have not watched a lot of them, because, if I did miss an important film early on in his career, please let me know in the comments below. And I apologize in advance if I don't get something, or if I don't talk about a specific movie that was big for him, basically. 1989, he comes out with a movie called That's Adequate. And I just see from the filmography here on Wikipedia, you see he plays Albert Einstein. That's kind of cool. It's a mockumentary, basically. But I just see it and it looks pretty cool. Let's see. 1990, he comes out with Air America, a movie that probably not a lot of you have heard about, but it's worth mentioning because this is a movie he does with Mel Gibson. And Mel Gibson's going to be important coming up in this video. It's an action comedy film, couple of pilots, no, I'm not going to say it, but I'm not going to say the plot, but Air America, I'd like to watch it someday. It didn't do very well at the box office, but I don't care about that. His breakthrough, however, in the early part of his career, this made him a star, pretty much. I mean, he was known in the late 80s and all that sort of thing, but I mean, the one he's known for, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was nominated for for the Academy Award for Best Actor for this role. In 1992, he comes out with Chaplin. This is about the life of Charlie Chaplin, British comedian Charlie Chaplin, and a big movie star in the 20s, the 30s. Really those decades in particular I'm thinking about, but he won a lot of critical acclaim for his portrayal of Charlie Chaplin, obviously, because he gets nominated for the Academy Award. I have not seen it. I would like to see it someday, though, because I like biographies about certain people, certain famous people. That's something I really like a lot. So I'll definitely have to see that sometime. 1994, he comes out with a movie called Natural Born Killers. I think a supporting role in that. A crime film directed by Oliver Stone, who does a lot of political type movies. Directs a lot of political type movies and things like that. He gets into kind of that subject matter. This is a little significant. 1995, he comes out with Richard III, which is adapted from William Shakespeare's play. He actually has a supporting role in the film. This is one, and I've seen certain clips of it before. This is one of the star character is Ian McKellen, who plays Richard III. And he he looks right into the camera and he narrates. He does a lot of asides in this movie, which is a good. I think is a good thing to have. I haven't seen the movie, but I think asides kind of add to a movie in general, definitely. And I'm not going to get too far into that because I know I'm probably going to rant on. So, moving on. He was in 1997. I think this one was a Two Girls and a Guy in 1998. He starred in that with Heather Graham. See here, I'm just looking at it because I know the name. Also in 1997, he comes out with One Night Stand with Wesley Snipes. So in the 80s and 90s, he would do a whole series. I mean, he was a dramatic actor, but he was also a comedic actor as well. He balanced between the two pretty much. The one I have watched, and this was kind of during his sort of downfall, if you want, sort of his downfall from Hollywood. This was right around that period. 1998, he comes out with U.S. Marshals. It's a sequel to The Fugitive. If you remember, I talked about The Fugitive in my last video with Harrison Ford. U.S. Marshals, Harrison Ford doesn't reprise his role. The role goes to Wesley Snipes. But Robert Downey Jr. plays a supporting role as a special agent who is the main villain. It turns out he is the main villain of the story, not the character Wesley Snipes who they perceive him to be. It's pretty much the same thing. Wesley Snipes' character gets convicted of a murder he didn't commit. He gets sent to, on an airplane. On an airplane. He gets sent to a prison. The airplane crashes. Wesley Snipes' character escapes. Robert Downey Jr.'s character gets brought in to help assist in the capture of Snipes' character, and he turns out to be a bad guy. And it's not definitely not good there. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna really say about it. But U.S. Marshals, I thought it was good. I thought it was as good, if not a little better, than The Fugitive, personally. Um, Maybe not better, but it was pretty. It was pretty close to The Fugitive, no matter what. But moving on, in 1999, he comes out with Bowfinger. He has a very small role in the film, nonetheless. Bowfinger, I talked about with Eddie Murphy, um, and he plays a small role as a Hollywood producer, I believe. But then this is kind of where he sort of falls off a little bit. A lot of alcohol and drug troubles. He just spiraled. His life spiraled out of control. He had prison time. And to his credit, and this is the start really of his second career, kind of. And I'm going to start with 2003 with a movie called Gothica. Some people probably know about it, but this one right here was, I think, actually, this is significant. Halle Berry's in the movie. It didn't do well at all, but Robert Downey Jr. met his wife. Her name's Susan Levin, a producer. They married in August 2005, but they met each other on set. They started a romance, and I think in a lot of interviews, Robert Downey Jr. has definitely credited his wife with helping him through the whole process of his alcohol and drug addictions, helping him with that and getting him, helping him get on his feet again. And to have a good support system like that is immensely important for people. Definitely. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It really is. He kind of starts his comeback more with a movie called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in 2005. It's a starring role for him, nonetheless. This is kind of... He stars in it with Val Kilmer, better known as Batman in Batman Forever. Michelle Monaghan is in the movie as well. She's done a few movies herself, but Kiss Kiss Bang Bang kind of gets things started a little bit for Robert Downey Jr. In 2006, he does a movie that did not do very well, but worth mentioning, The Shaggy Dog. It is a remake of the 1959 film of the same name. He he has a supporting role. The role is Tim Allen has the lead role. But yeah, let's see here. Yeah, it really didn't do very well at all. But another role where he kind of has a supporting role, one of the more known ones, I would think. 2007, I think some people know about this one. He stars in Zodiac, the movie Zodiac. It's a mystery thriller. He stars in it with Jake Gyllenhaal and Mark Ruffalo. And this movie, I think, was a success, definitely. Yeah, it was pretty good. With critics, it was a success, I see here. But yeah, Zodiac was another movie that kind of got him going. But the breakout role for him, a lot of people know about this role. I mean, if you've been, if you haven't been paying attention, I mean, if you don't know about this breakout role, then you've been living under a rock, basically. For all moviegoers, pretty much, I talk about moviegoers here. The breakout role for Robert Downey Jr. was a little movie called Iron Man in 2008. You know, he plays Tony Stark / Iron Man. It is a really, I mean, it's the best role of his career. A lot of people would argue it's the best role of his career, even better than Charlie Chaplin. You know, portraying Chaplin in '92, and a lot of his earlier stuff. Because in the early days, he really, I mean, he was a star, definitely, but he's nowhere near the star he is now, basically. You know, he's in a lot of different things today, and yeah, he's a way better star. He's a way more marketable star now than he was back then. That's my opinion on the whole thing, because just look at the body of work. It's just been, and I'll talk more about that, it's unbelievable. But Iron Man, of course, a big movie franchise. The first one in particular is one of the better reviewed ones. Basically, it's a billionaire, Tony Stark, who gets captured in the first film by terrorists, I think it is. I think that's what they're called. But after he gets captured and escapes, he dons the Iron Man suit and he fights evil. Basically, he's a billionaire who finances Iron Man suits for him to fight evil, basically. And he just plays the role so well. I mean, so you think, he's kind of high on himself. He's kind of an asshole at times. But he has a heart of gold, and you see that, and he wants to save the world and all that sort of thing. And, of course, in the Iron Man movies, he plays alongside Gwyneth Paltrow, who plays his love interest, and those two have amazing chemistry. Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow. Amazing chemistry. But enough about Iron Man. There was another big movie. I mean, actually, 2008, he appeared as Tony Stark in an uncredited role in The Incredible Hulk. Uncredited, but nonetheless, it was a role for the whole superhero thing, the whole superhero Marvel type of thing. But 2008 also, he stars in a favorite comedy of mine. It's definitely a top. I mean, it's one of my favorites, definitely. Tropic Thunder. And if you remember, I talked about that role being the best of Tom Cruise's career in my Tom Cruise video. Robert Downey Jr. is pretty good in this one, too. I mean, the character he plays an actor that's in a movie within a movie, basically. A lot of controversy, because in the movie he does don blackface. And that does hit. It's really, a lot of racial inequality type people, stuff like that. People like that, they were up in arms about it. But the fact is, he was good in the movie. He played a good role. He just, in the movie, he's like, he's an Australian actor. He's kind of modeled after Russell Crowe. some of these guys are modeled after certain people. Jack Black in the movies modeled after Chris Farley. His character's modeled after Chris Farley. Robert Downey Jr.'s after Russell Crowe. Kirk Lazarus is the character's name. The actor in the movie who portrays another actor, Sergeant Lincoln Osiris. But bottom line is, Robert Downey Jr. in blackface does a very good job in the movie. In 2009, he just continues his big-time success with Sherlock Holmes. Another role he is well known for, as well as Tony Stark and Iron Man. I don't know. I mean, there may have been people that were wondering when he was cast if he would do a good job in a role that would be meant for an Englishman, basically, you know. Because Sherlock Holmes is English, as a lot of people know. I believe. I just want to make sure here. Yeah, he's British. It's based on Sherlock Holmes' character created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Again, in this movie, he plays alongside Jude Law, as Jude Law plays Dr. Watson. Sherlock Holmes and Jude Law, once again, Robert Downey Jr. has excellent chemistry with his other lead actor. In this case, Jude Law. Another amazing chemistry-filled performance. And, Sherlock Holmes did pretty well at the box office, I think, and with critics, too. In this movie, he has to try to defeat a man who tries to unleash chemical warfare among England, basically. I think is the short way to describe the movie. Along the way, he kind of fights alongside a woman. The girl who plays that girl is Rachel McAdams. But yeah, that's pretty much a major thing of it. And Sherlock Holmes, the biggest thing is that Sherlock Holmes really broadened Robert Downey Jr.'s career. In 2010, there's a couple movies of note. Iron Man 2 comes out, which is a very successful sequel alongside Iron Man. And in 2010, he comes out with something non-Iron Man and Sherlock Holmes related, a comedy called Due Date. And he stars in this with Zach Galifianakis of The Hangover fame. And Downey Jr. plays a guy who, I've never watched the movie. I'd like to someday. But Downey Jr. plays a guy who has to get home to his pregnant wife, and he runs into Galifianakis' character, and there's a whole lot of adventure there. In 2011, he comes out with the second Sherlock Holmes movie, which is titled Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. In this movie, he has to fight Professor Moriarty, who is a major Sherlock Holmes villain. I heard a guy say this in one movie video that I watched, that he is like the Joker to Batman, basically, being Sherlock Holmes. Which I can definitely understand, because Moriarty definitely is in a lot of Sherlock Holmes novels. But yeah, 2011 featured Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. 2012, which is one of Robert Downey Jr.'s biggest box office successes. He stars in The Avengers, which is such a highly anticipated film. You know, it was a highly anticipated film. I mean, Scarlett Johansson plays Black Widow. Mark Ruffalo plays the Incredible Hulk. Chris Evans plays Captain America. Let me see here. I'm thinking of another one. I had one on the top of my head. Oh, Chris Hemsworth plays Thor. So it's a whole bunch of superheroes, all all in one movie basically. And the Avengers really exceeded everybody's expectations. This was a movie that definitely, if it was going to be critically derided, a lot of people would have, a lot of Hollywood producers, fans, things like that, they would have been pissed if this movie didn't do very well at all. Which is a good thing that the movie did very well in 2012. But anyway, 2013, last year, Downey Jr. came out with Iron Man 3. I got the chance to see that in theaters. What I had to do is I saw Iron Man and Iron Man 2 beforehand, because I'm the kind of guy who likes to watch the first movie first and then go in order. When there's a trilogy involved or a franchise series, I have to watch the first one and then go in order. And I know that's what a lot of people think too. A lot of people have that belief, as well as I do. But Iron Man 3, he has to fight he has to try to defeat, and I'm trying to think of the name here of the person, Mandarin. He has to try to defeat the terrorist organization led by the mysterious Mandarin. And, the film just made the film only made $1.2 billion at the box office. I mean, that's, man, a lot of money for it. The Avengers, let's see here, because I'm interested in the $1.518 billion. My goodness. These films are just wow. Marvel is wow, basically. More on Robert Downey Jr. and Marvel coming up. But this year, actually, 2014, he comes out with a movie called Chef. Just came out in theaters about a few months ago, May 9th. And he plays a supporting role in the film. This is with a lot of heavyweights, too. Sofia Vergara from Modern Family, Scarlett Johansson, another reunion of those two from the Iron Man 2 and the Avengers. Dustin Hoffman's in the movie. Jon Favreau, who also directs the film. This one is about a guy who I haven't seen it before. I'd like to see it someday, but this is about a guy who I think a big time successful chef who basically goes out on the road and sells his product in like trailer in like his own little vehicle or something like that. But yeah, this is a film of note because it's this year, and he had a supporting role in the film. A movie that is coming up very soon, also this year, is a movie called The Judge, which is also another curious movie. The star alongside him is Robert Duvall, who plays his father. I've seen a lot of the trailers for it, and it looks very good. Um, you know, here's basically, I'll read you the basic plot. Basically, Henry Hank Palmer, played by Downey Jr., a successful lawyer, returns to his hometown of Carlinville, Indiana, for his mother's funeral, only to discover that his estranged father, Judge Joseph Palmer, is suspected of murder. He has to now defend his father in court against Dwight Dickham, a prosecutor determined to see Joseph put away. So that's basically what the plot is. I'd like to see it sometime. Definitely. With me, personally, I say a lot of times that I want to see a certain movie and stuff like that. I don't have the money to get to the movie theaters quite a lot. Going to the movie theaters is a treat for me, personally. I do a lot of research on films, so I know a lot about films in general. But I know some about, even some I haven't watched before. But yeah, it's really a treat for me to go to the movie theaters and see a specific movie. I think I've only been 4 or 5 times this year. Last year I went a lot. I went like over 10 times, I think, which is a lot for me, definitely. But yeah, enough about that. So that's the Judge movie. I'd like to see that someday. Releases that are coming out very soon. Actually, wait a second. Expect the Judge. It is coming out October 10th, so very soon. Anyway, there's a couple movies of note that have to do with Marvel that are coming out very soon. Well, actually, one that is definitely coming out soon. Avengers Age of Ultron, the sequel to the Avengers. Another big-time film. The big guy in the film that's going to be in... that's going to come to this film that wasn't in the Avengers is James Spader, who you might well know now as the star of The Blacklist. Which is a great show, by the way. Love the show. But James Spader's going to play Ultron, the villain, in the film. I'll read you a little bit of the premise. With S.H.I.E.L.D. destroyed, and the Avengers needing a hiatus from stopping threats, Tony Stark attempts to jumpstart a dormant peacekeeping program with Ultron, a self-aware, self-teaching artificial intelligence. However, his plan backfires when Ultron decides that humans are the main enemy and sets out to eradicate them from Earth, and it is up to Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, who's played by Jeremy Renner, along with support from Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and Maria Hill, played by Colby Smulders, to stop him from enacting his plans. Along the way, the Avengers encounter the powerful twins Pietro and Wanda Maximoff, who are actually played by, Elizabeth Olsen. Elizabeth Olsen and Aaron Taylor Johnson. And as well as the familiar Vision. Vision's played by... let me see here... Paul Bettany. For those of you who don't know, he actually plays Jarvis, the guy the computer voice who is in a lot of the Iron Man suits. He plays that in, the Avengers and the first Iron Man, in the 3 Iron Man movies. So, look for Avengers Age of Ultron on May 1st, 2015. That's when it's going to be coming out in North America. And then another one that's rumored right now, but not confirmed yet, is Iron Man 4. A lot of people have been clamoring for it. We just recently heard a rumor that Robert Downey Jr. would come back to Iron Man 4 only if Mel Gibson directed. And Mel Gibson has collaborated with Robert Downey Jr. before. There was a particular movie that he directed him in and helped him get his comeback. Mel Gibson directed a particular movie that kind of aided along Robert Downey Jr. In his comeback. Mel Gibson, another guy who's kind of coming back now from a lot of controversy. I will talk about Mel Gibson in another video, definitely. But Iron Man 4 is coming in. I was watching a video about the whole controversy, the whole thing with Iron Man 4 and Robert Downey Jr. And the guy I heard talk say that the question was kind of taken out of context. That an interviewer kind of led him into that type of question. So taken out of context, at the end of Iron Man 3, if you remember, he gets rid of all the suits, the Iron Man suits. That kind of signals an end in a way, but movie producers and all that. That movie producers, movie people will figure out a way, and Robert Downey Jr., if he wants to do Iron Man 4, they'll figure out a way to kind of restart the whole thing again, start a new era of Iron Man with Iron Man 4. But that is pretty much it for movies in general. With television, there hasn't been a whole lot of it that, of note, really. A little known fact about Robert Downey Jr. is that he was actually a cast member of Saturday Night Live in 1985. He was actually a cast member. Really unfortunate that they let him go. In 1996, he hosted again. He hosted once. 96. Other than that, 1985, he came out with a mini-series, Mussolini: The Untold Story, about Italian dictator Bruno Mussolini. No, the son of Benito Mussolini, who was the dictator. Just mentioning that, and because I'm a fan of history. And from 2000 to 2002, he actually starred in a TV series as Ally McBeal. He starred in this series. This is kind of where he kind of started having his troubles a little bit. Really, this is kind of where it all was the beginning of the end for him of movie career number 1, basically. It's really, I shouldn't say that. This kind of is where it all started going downhill for Robert Downey Jr. was Ally McBeal, but of course he made his big comeback. I mentioned that I mentioned that before. And then another role that he did, the last TV appearance he's made was back in the last TV role that he's done. It was 2005. He voiced Patrick Pewterschmidt, the brother of Lois Griffin in Family Guy. And that's pretty much it. He portrayed Tony Stark in the video game Iron Man. But other than that, that's it. I know this video is the longest one I've done. Definitely. I'm definitely aware of that looking at the recording time. But bottom line is, and I'm talking a lot about his comeback too, but bottom line is the guy, kudos to him. I mean, he kicked. I mean, yeah, he's always going to be an alcohol and drug. He's always going to be addicted. But it's about, control, basically, from the drugs and alcohol, basically. Kudos to him on a great comeback, period. And he's even better now than he was back then. That's what I think, in my opinion. I'm only kind of saying that because I've seen a lot of his newer stuff. And I've seen a little bit of his older stuff to kind of know a little bit, in a way. But yeah, anyway, that's it for this video. D-Rock 1992 out.